Hi everyone, Effie here. Today the Ton is participating in World Cardmaking Day with a fun design team blog hop. And I'm going to show you how I made this card with one of our shoe wardrobe sets and also with our holiday bow set. So let's get started. I'm only going to use this one stamp for this card today. I'm using the back facing view of these heels, and then I'm going to stamp it repeatedly in VersaFine Onyx Black pigment ink. And after I stamp it in the form of a tree, I'm going to take some clear embossing powder and I'm going to clear heat emboss the stamped images. For my cards today, I wanted to create holiday cards using non-holiday stamp sets. So what I'm doing is I'm stretching my stamp sets by creating holiday cards with my shoe wardrobe set. Now I'm going to go forward and pour some super fine clear embossing powder over the stamped images. The embossing powder will stick to the pigment ink because this type of ink stays wet a little longer than, say, a dye ink. After I tap off the excess embossing powder, I'm going to take my heat gun and apply heat all over the stamped panel to melt the embossing powder. You want to make sure that your heat gun is good and hot before you actually apply it to your cardstock to avoid too much warping. Next, I'm going to color in the soles of all of my heels in red. I'm using a red Copic marker in R29. It's lipstick red, and this is my go-to red marker for coloring in all of my Louboutin heels. Once I finish coloring, I'm going to make the bow that's going to top off my tree. I'm using our new holiday bow set and I'm using the second to smallest bow. I'm going to stamp the first solid layer in Delicata Golden Glitz, and then the second layer I'm going to stamp in Versamark Onyx Black ink. Our holiday bows only have 2 layers per stamped image, and each set comes with its own color printed layering guide. In addition to the printed guide, I created a quick video tutorial on how to layer these stamps. You can find it in the layering playlist on our YouTube channel. After I finish the stamping, I'm going to pour some clear heat embossing powder over the bow and heat set it with my heat tool. There's something magical about watching the embossing powder melt as you heat it. It just creates this really pretty, gorgeous, dimensional look to your projects because it creates a raised surface on your cardstock. Now that the stamping and heat embossing is finished, I'm going to take the coordinating die for this bow and I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine to create a really pretty bow that's going to top off my shoe tree. I'm also going to take a rectangle stitch die and I'm going to die cut my shoe panel. If you see, I did not stamp the shoes totally on center on my panel, but that's okay because I'm going to center it within my rectangle die frame. So it's not a big deal if you stamp it a little wonky because you can fix it by centering the image within your die. I adhered the dies onto my cardstock with some washi tape, and I actually did it at the same time so that I could run my dies through my machine consecutively. Before I run my shoe panel in my die cut machine, I just place a piece of typing paper over the cardstock and over the die, but before my cutting plate because I didn't want to get the red Copic marker onto my cutting plate because I find that sometimes when I have colored images go through the die cut, it sometimes bleeds onto the top cutting plate and sometimes it contaminates other cardstocks that go through the die cut machine after that. Now that I've finished all my die cutting, I'm ready to assemble my card. I'm going to use some black cardstock to create a side folding A2 size card base that I'm going to mount my stamped panel onto. Trimming an 8.5 by 11 size sheet of cardstock. It's heavyweight 110-pound cardstock at the long side on 5.5 inches, and then I'm going to score that piece at 4.25 inches to create a side folding card base. Then I'm going to adhere my stamped panel onto the card base using some Tombow stamp runner. I'm being liberal with the adhesive because I did the heat embossing, which warped my card panel just a little bit, so I put a lot of adhesive on the back of this to make sure that it adheres totally onto my heavyweight card base. Next, I'm going to use some tiny foam squares to pop up the bow on my shoe tree, and it's going to add a nice dimensional element to my card. It's going to create a lot of depth to the card. I also love that the gold bow adds that sparkle element to the card because the Golden Glitz Delicata ink that I used is just absolutely beautiful in person. And in addition to the glitz, it is heat embossed as well. It also adds a really nice contrast to all of the black and white that's already on this project. So here's my finished non-traditional holiday card. I decided to not go with a sentiment to keep it clean and simple. So this was my first video of the day, but I have a second video for the blog hop for World Cardmaking Day. So make sure you watch the second one where I use another one of our shoe wardrobe sets to create another non-traditional holiday card. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye!